Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. In this video I'm going to show you everything you need to do and prep to put the cylinder head back on. So this won't be a head installment video, but just the prepping. And this is particularly useful for those that have the same bad luck as I have and having to buy a new head. Because when you order a new head, it says that it's ready to install, but that's not true. You have to move a few things from the old head. So I'm going to show you exactly what you need to do to prep your new head. So I hope you'll like this video and just follow along. See if you can get any tips from this. And please comment if you have any questions or suggestions along the way, and I'll try and answer them as best as I can. Let's get on with taking everything off. Here we have the exhaust manifold, and I let it be on when we lifted it off. It was an easy handle. It is much easier now to reach all the studs, because I've had problems with these before. These studs like to break and stuff, so it's really important to have good access so you can actually get your tools on square. So we'll try and take those off now. I'm going to load this up in the Volvo and go to the machine shop and see what they have to say. Well, that did not go as I hoped. The machine shop had a look at it. They said that the crack was all the way down to the fuel galley. So they said that they can't fix it because it's far too deep for them to even weld, and that I should buy a replacement head. So yeah, that's some really bad news. Okay guys, so here you can see all the parts that are stripped off the engine. And I've laid them out quite nicely so you can see them as well. I thought I'd just go through the parts and tell you exactly what you need to order before putting a new head or head gasket in, because there are some parts that actually need to be replaced. So yeah, and then we also have gaskets and stuff that need to be replaced too every time you take something off. So here we have basically everything that needs to be replaced. And we'll start with the obvious one, and that's the head gasket. This one has to be replaced every time you take the head off. To find out which head gasket you need, you can check for the side. So on the engine it will be mounted like this, and there's a little tab sticking out from under the head. So you can actually check this with the head in place, and then you can see how many holes there are to determine the thickness of the gasket itself. And this one, my car only has one hole in it, so I know that I have to order a new head gasket with only one hole. Then we have the head bolts. These are very long and they are stretch bolts, so they can only be used once. So they actually stretch a little, and they also stretch with the engine warming up and cooling down and stuff. So those you'll really have to order new ones for. Then we have some more obvious ones. The intake manifold gasket, as well as the exhaust manifold gasket. And here we have the turbo to exhaust manifold gasket. It also has to be replaced. Then we have the injector seals and the injector washers. We will also order new glow plugs. Now you don't have to replace them every time you do anything with the head, but in my case some of them were actually quite this top part fell off and lost some parts and stuff, so I'm ordering new ones. We have also taken off the fuel pressure regulator. Now this is not something you have to take off, so if you don't have to, then you don't have to order this, but I took it off to take the head to the machine shop. I'll have to order a new gasket and new O-rings. Then we have these 3 bolts. So these 3 bolts connect the wheel to the camshaft that gets driven off the timing chain, and these should always be replaced when you take them off. Then we have the front seal, and this should also be replaced every time you take it out. And then we have obviously the rocker cover gasket, and if you have problems with oil in your ECU, then you should always order a new wiring harness, injector wiring harness. And then last but not least, the rocker shaft securing bolts. I actually ordered all the replaceable things, all the new seals, the gaskets, the new bolts and stuff for about between 200 and 300 pounds. So if you do have to replace the head gasket on your Td5, I really recommend you do it yourself if you have any experience in working on your car. This isn't the most advanced thing to do. So yeah, and you can actually save a lot of money on this, because parts wise you'll have to buy all these parts for about 200-300 pounds, and new oil, new coolant, and that's basically it. So you're looking at like 300 to 400 pounds worth of stuff that you need, and then you won't pay for any labor, because it's the labor that is expensive, because this job takes some time. So that's basically all the parts that you need to do this job. And when doing this job, it's also a good idea to clean some stuff. That's a lot better. Okay, so now we're going to clean up the deck surface. This is the engine block, and we have to clean all the areas that the head gasket is going to seal against. So as you can see on the deck surface, you have the cylinder bores, of course, and then you have some holes for coolant and oil, and these bores need to be sealed off from the cylinder bores. So all these surfaces around the holes need to be cleaned up very well. There are always small bits of the old gasket left, so we are going to clean this up now. And for that I got a little sanding machine, and this will run on air. And then we have a little Roloc bristle disc, it's called, and it's 120 grit. And this is some sort of plastic that is soft, but it's also quite hard, and this will get all the leftovers of the head gasket, and we'll take it off without scratching the surface of the deck. And then we're gonna go over it with some Scotch-Brite, just some soft pads, and that way we can just clean up the surface after we're done with this. And something to note before going with the bristle is you should clean off the deck surface with some brake cleaner and make sure that there's no coolant or oil at the top of any of the holes, because when you get on it with this, it is going to fly everywhere. And you also want to keep this as clean as possible, so start with a clean as possible surface. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now we're going to use the Scotch-Brite pad and touch up the surface. Okay, now I'm very happy with that. As you can see, the deck is clean, and what's important here is that there are no visible or clear lines around the cylinders and around the ports for the oil and coolant. So, and that there are small marks around the edges doesn't matter, because that's not a sealing surface, because these are just the holes for the head bolts. So what's important is that the areas around the cylinder bores are getting done, as well as the oil and coolant. That's that done. And now the deck surface is ready to accept the new head gasket and then the head. As you can see here, the fuel return line is in really bad condition. It doesn't leak, but I've just gone and bought myself some new hose. I'm going to cut it to length, and then we're going to replace this old one. So I finally received the brand new cylinder head. Here's the old one and here's the new one, and it's quite obvious. And this head is from a company called AMC, and I've bought it via Turner Engineering in the UK. So I don't know if you can buy it directly from AMC, but it was just the way I did it, and they did not sponsor this or anything. I think I'm almost 2,500 euros into this with all the new parts and stuff, because I've also gotten the rest of the stuff, which I ordered from Paddock Spares, also not sponsored. We got some brand new head bolts, we got the head gaskets, we got all the other gaskets needed, new glow plugs and everything. So what we're going to do now is take some stuff from the old head and put it on the new head. I've already installed brand new exhaust studs, upgraded ones, the Worth, and they will have the copper nuts on them, and these are supposed to last longer. They are extended, so they are a bit longer than the original studs. They are supposed to stop the manifold, the exhaust manifold, from warping. And the head, it says that it's ready to install, and it actually has the valves in them, but it doesn't have a camshaft. So I'll have to take the camshaft off the old head, put it in the new head. The reason why people buy these AMC heads is because they are upgraded in what I've been told multiple ways, but the most important one is the thickness of the injector socket wall. So as you can see there, that's the thickness of the wall compared to the original one. That is, I think it's twice the size, because what happened to mine is it cracked, and you can slightly see the crack right in that corner. And these walls are twice the thickness, so they aren't supposed to crack anymore. Hopefully this one won't have any more the normal common Td5 cylinder head problems. What we're going to do now is again follow the Haynes manual. I actually have both of them here, but the Defender is from 83 to 2007 diesel models. So this you can do it with the Defender one, but because this is only the 98 to 2004, so the Disco 2 diesel, it will only be about the Td5, so you don't have to like go through non-Td5, as you can see, non-Td5 engine procedures, because this will also do the NA diesel, the 200, the 300 and the Td5. I use the Discovery one because it's only about the Td5, so it's easier to find the correct information. So yeah, to take the cam out, there are lots of bolts because the cylinder head is also in two parts, as you can see. So we'll have to take the top part out, and that sandwiches the camshaft in. And there are a bunch of screws along the edge of the top part, and we're going to take those out. And there's also a certain way of doing this, and then we'll be able to take the camshaft out. And we'll have to be sure to put it in the correct position with this slot upwards, so we get the valves timed properly on the new head. So here's the camshaft carrier bolt tightening sequence, and we're just going to follow that in the reverse way. So there are 13 bolts. We're going to start with 13, 12, 11, 10, blah blah blah, and take the camshaft carrier off. There we go, that's that off. And now we can just lift the camshaft out of place, put it on a very clean surface. And here we have all the lifters, and they are loose. It's very important that you keep them in the correct position. So here are the lifters. So now I'll take the new head camshaft carrier off, and it seems like they only put 4 bolts in this, so we'll have to reuse the old bolts. So we can just move all the lifters and all these, I don't know the exact words for them, but we'll move those to the new head, and then we can drop the camshaft in. Okay, so that's all the lifters in place, and they just come out. They are loose in there. And the good thing about having a cracked head, getting diesel in the oil, is that everything is nice and clean. So I didn't have to clean them up before installing them. Now we'll drop the camshaft in, and I'm just going to clean that just to be on the safe side. I pulled it out with my gloves on, and those are a bit dirty, so we'll just clean it off with some brake cleaner and put some new oil on it before we put it in place. And then when reinstalling the camshaft carrier, you are supposed to put some sealant in there, and it's specified in here: Land Rover STC 4600, STC 611, Hylomar 2000 or equivalent. So I've ordered some Hylomar sealant, and it's basically just a liquid gasket that's special for this purpose, and that's so that no oil leaks out in between here. I bought, like, basically it says here, installation kit for LDF 5020, which is the name of the cylinder head, and it includes a bunch of seals, the front camshaft seal, rear camshaft seal. It even has new dowels for the injector clamps, so we'll be putting those in, and those just drop in here. And then there are also, they've included new injector washes and seals, but I'm going to be using the Land Rover genuine ones, which I've already installed on the injectors. And then we have like new bolts for the rocker shaft, as well as new bolts for the injectors. So we'll be installing all those along the way and just making sure that everything is new and in top condition. And then we have our new locating dowels for the cylinder head to the engine block. Now they go in just like that, just push them in, and they are the same both ways, so it doesn't matter. And there's one up front, and then there's one in the rear. Just like that. And then here we have another gasket kit, Td5 head set, no head gasket. And this includes a lot of gaskets like the intake and exhaust, as well as a rocker cover gasket, two ones, one for the early one and one for the late one. And it has a bunch of seals, another set of injector seals, as well as the turbo to exhaust gasket, and a new gasket for the thermostatic housing. Well, it's just a temporary, the two cylinder heads, so we'll install those along the way as well. And I bought some new glow plugs. And there are also new gaskets for the fuel pressure regulator. So I'm just going to install some parts onto the new cylinder head, and that's because I'm waiting for the sealant for the camshaft carrier. We can do some other things in the meantime. We'll install the exhaust manifold on the new manifold bolts, studs, and don't forget to put the gasket in between. Okay, so far we've put on the exhaust manifold, and I've even dewebbed it. So I've taken out the middle parts in between each port, just to make sure that it won't warp as easy as usual. We have this little coolant pipe connection on with a new gasket in between, and torqued it up. And then we have the fuel pressure regulator on there, new gasket on that as well. We have the fuel return pipe. We also have the inlet manifold. I spent a good few hours cleaning that, as well as the fuel cooler. It's all cleaned off. Will be nice to look at, and it will be nice to work on as well when it's all fitted and clean again. What we're going to do now is I've put all these in place, and now it's time to actually put the camshaft in place and then put the camshaft carrier on. So I'll show you how to do that. Okay, now it's time to actually put the new sealant on the camshaft carrier, and this surface will actually mount to the head surface. There's a special compound you have to use. I got some here, and we are going to apply a thin layer using a small roller. So we're actually going to roll it over top here and make sure that everything gets covered very nicely and smoothly and evenly. And then we have to double check that none of the holes are covered in the sealant, as well as the oil paths over here. It's very important that they don't get covered. I've already put the camshaft in place, as you can see here, because this one is going to go over the camshaft. And with this compound you have about 20 minutes before it sets off. So you'll have to cover it in sealant and then put it on and get it right within 20 minutes. So that's what we're going to do now. So I'm just making sure that there's an even amount on the roller itself, and now we're going to apply it to the surface. And now we're putting this in place on top of the head. And here you'll be needing your screw again, just to make sure that the camshaft lines up. Yep. Now it's time to put these screws back in, and camshaft carrier bolts are reusable, so you can use them again if you've taken them out. I didn't know if I had to order any or if the new head actually included these, but the new head only included 4 of them. So, and first you just tighten them hand tight. Now, because the camshaft is laying on the valve springs, it doesn't actually want to seal properly right away, because we will actually use these bolts to evenly pull the carrier to the head, and that way we're also pushing down on the valve springs and getting all the valves in place. And that's why it's important to get the camshaft to the top that center position and put your drill bit in place to get the timing right. And now we're supposed to gradually tighten bolts following a special pattern. So I have the pattern here. And it goes 1 up to 13. We're going to be doing that, and they are supposed to be torqued to 25 Newton meters. And it's also important to have the head on a soft surface, because the valves are going to be getting out of the cylinder head. Actually, they're going to be pushed down, and you don't want it to destroy anything. So it's good to have it on a soft surface. And I just tighten them slightly with a normal ratchet, and now we're going to go and do it all again, because now these front ones are loose again, until that doesn't happen anymore, and then we go and use the torque wrench. So just don't over tighten anything. Okay, so now I feel like all the bolts are somewhat tight in there, and as we can see, the gap has completely disappeared, and there's no more gap between the two surfaces. And then we're going to torque it by the correct sequence. I'm going to use to torque them down to 25 Newton meters. And when you've done that once, just do it one more time. There we go. That's that done. Okay, now it's time to put the rear crankshaft seal in place. You're supposed to put it in that way. So like a cup inwards, and loop it up as well. We just need to position it properly, and then we can use a socket and a hammer to beat it in place. There we go. Okay, that's that. That's the camshaft in place, and we've got the timing right. So what we're going to do now is lift it in place. What? So that's basically all you have to do to prep the new head for refitting. If you are only doing the head gaskets, you just have to clean the engine block itself. But just going through the steps again, when you take the old head off, you just have to remove everything that you are going to put onto the new head. So that's the inlet manifold, the fuel cooler, the exhaust manifold, the little coolant pipe. We have the fuel pressure regulator as well. And then you're supposed to remove the camshaft and all the rollers as well. And then clean everything. I don't know, I didn't film much of it, but I spent a good few hours just cleaning up the inlet manifold, cleaning up the fuel cooler, the exhaust manifold, coolant pipes, everything. I just made sure to get everything as clean as possible. Even the fuel pressure regulator I cleaned as good as possible, because it's just much nicer to work on when it's all clean, and you know that all the seals and gaskets and stuff are going to seal properly and that there's no dirt in between. I put the new rollers in, put the cam in, the cam carrier, the exhaust manifold, the inlet manifold. I put the fuel cooler on and the coolant pipe, and I've put the camshaft at the top dead center mark using the little drill bit. And what we've done to the engine block is we've just cleaned it off like I showed you, and put the new head gasket on and the dowels, the locating dowels. More than that is basically not necessary. What you can do is refit the injectors as well. So the injectors, the injector clamps, and the rocker shaft as well. But I'm not doing that because that's a lot of extra weight, and the injectors actually stick out from the bottom of the cylinder head, and I don't want to damage those. So if we lift it and get hung up on anything, we won't damage the injectors. I hope you liked this video. This is just a preparation video for if you have as bad luck as I have and had to buy a new head. And the next video will be refitting the cylinder head onto the engine itself. I'll show you exactly how to torque everything down and put all the accessories back on again. So yeah, thank you for watching. I hope this really helps. Please like this video and please share it as well. So comment if you have any questions. Comment if you have any suggestions as well, because I'm always learning. Thanks for watching again. Like, subscribe and comment, and we'll see you in the next video.